Hi, this is Miriam Wortel, author of the book Lessons in Law of Attraction. Today I want to discuss something very near and dear to my heart, which is the idea of going inside and fixing your own problems. But I specifically want to address it in the religious context of the idea of Moshiach, the Messiah, coming. So I always try to keep all of my information open to people of all different faiths and beliefs. So I'm hoping, even though this is a little bit specific, the message that I'm sharing today, I hope it still resonates with people regardless of the faith that they're in. But in the Jewish faith, there's this concept that, the Messiah comes, we get redeemed, and suddenly the world becomes basically a utopia. Actually, I don't know if it's suddenly or gradual, but whatever it is. The Messiah comes, the world's a utopia. With what's going on now, especially with the pandemic, and just, I think people have been saying this a while, they're just saying, like, how long do we have to wait? When's the Messiah coming? Or people are saying the Messiah is here. The Messiah is coming really soon. And I don't think people are necessarily looking, some people are, but some people aren't, looking at maybe the prep work that may be involved in bringing the Messiah. And for anyone in general, turning the world into the peaceful and loving, beautiful place that it can be. So I want to share with you a metaphor. Imagine if you can take the idea of a cookie, a thing of bread, and it was sort of sectioned out, and it was broken up into little pieces. Pretend that is the idea of God, and each one of those pieces are our souls. Now, the reason this is only basically a metaphor is because God is endless, and if it was an idea of something being, like you think like a pie chart, something being in fractions, like when God is endless, you can't have something that is finite, right? So that's why this doesn't actually work as far as real life, but for the purpose of what I'm trying to teach, just visualize that for a second, right? So we're all a slice of God, a piece of God. And when we want to be redeemed by the Messiah, an aspect of God, right, personification of God, we have to think about our piece and what makes us whole. Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, you know what? There are people who aren't even doing their part. There are people who are evil. There are people who are bad. There are people who are selfish. There are people who don't care. There are people who are not part of the mission of making the world a better place. We're not responsible for them. We're each responsible for ourselves, and through ourselves, we shine a light. Right? And so the more positive pieces we have together, the closer we are to becoming that whole, right? And to having that light in the world. So not only do we have the people here on earth, we also have all of the non-physical helping us. Those who have lived and passed on, angels, I don't know, whatever other beings. There's a lot of heavenly help. I'll leave it at that. Our job is to do our part and to fix our inner world, to create an outer world that is more desirable, more to what we want. I wondered for so long, why did I, as a religious Jewish person, get sent on this crazy, felt like a spiritual goose chase? For me, when I became religious, it was literally a mix of things. Like I saw, the beauty of keeping the Sabbath, and just I saw this beautiful love that I saw in the religious community that really attracted me towards it. And I started becoming religious when I was around 13 years old. By the time I was 15, though, I was already into the more secular stuff, what people refer to as like healing stones, so gemstones used for healing. So I have the belief that, just like every vegetable we eat has innate healing properties, I believe crystals have that God created the world with crystals having innate healing properties. So I was doing things with energy healing, whatever else. Like, I don't know what other 15-year-old was doing that, but I was an interesting teenager. Also an interesting adult on that same token, but that was kind of my introduction to secular spirituality. I went away from that for a bit, and I have my reasons for staying away from certain things. That's a conversation for another time. But when life got really crazy and I really cried out to God, and I had prayed, and I've done, let's say, every spiritual hack in the book, and I prayed to God like the way people pray to have children who haven't had children, like for things to get better in my life. Like, that was a level of prayer. If that gives you an idea, the way I cried out to God. And I did a lot of formal prayer, and I did a lot of personal prayer. And I had basically two, we call them constrictions in my life. So in other words, there's a Jewish concept, a Kabbalistic concept of constriction, right? So from constriction comes that clarity. Think of it like childbirth, right? Before something's born, you have these contractions. So I went through really hard times in my life, two of them. So the first main one was the premise for my book. Then as I was getting ready to publish my book, things turned upside down, but only seemingly. It actually was the pathway to everything I prayed for that's coming in the next book. Don't worry, God willing, you'll soon understand what I mean by that. But it was like, why did God lead me back to secular spirituality when religious spirituality is what resonated most with my heart? And first of all, what I found, I realized wasn't separate from religious spirituality. It was just not talked about as much. And I think God just wanted me to find it in a way that I would understand it. In other words, so the deep spiritual stuff obviously is in Hebrew, or sometimes our stuff is in Aramaic or whatever else. So there's language issues, so I wasn't going to like naturally come across the deeper stuff from Judaism to get the answer. So I found that on YouTube. I found watered down versions of some of the same mystical concepts on YouTube. And so basically, what we call law of attraction is tied to Jewish mysticism. It's part of what's considered to be Jewish mysticism, but it has a catchy name, and that's the name on YouTube, law of attraction. And that was the whole idea of what I wrote in my book, right? Is coming to learn that. But what I learned, I realized it wasn't just to fix my life, and it was more than even that. So from that, I get to also, God willing, and I've seen already, like, thank God I've been able to help so many people from what I've published. But in other words, I'm not just teaching people how to change their thinking and beliefs to actually manifest better things coming into our realities, right? So each individual lives within our reality, right? So I realized I was learning, I'll say, subtle hints to a much, much bigger topic, and to several big topics. One of them being the coming of the Messiah. So the concept of law of attraction is that, what's the phrase? That which is like unto itself is what attracts, or something to that effect. In other words, whatever you are is what you attract. Whatever you put out is what you're getting back. What does the Messiah represent? Okay, so whether you're Jewish or not Jewish, what does the idea of the Messiah represent? It represents love and peacefulness. So if we are talking about how much we hate the world, how much corruption there is, how much people are just off their rockers, does that shout love to you? So if we want to be in that place of love, sometimes if we want to have the Messiah come, don't we need to be in that place of love? Doesn't mean we give everyone a free pass, whatever else, but we try to look at things through the most positive lens that we can. We're trying to find a perspective that is as close to a godly perspective as possible, right? Realizing that even if people are corrupt, even if people are mean, and even if people are having a bad day, look at it as like, you know what? This person probably went through all these things that I don't know, that these people had all these different things that shaped their experience, that made them who I am. And yes, I don't have to associate with these people. I don't have to necessarily like these people, but I don't have to go shout no at these people. What you resist persists. The more you shout no at something, the more you get. Because it's whatever you put your attention on is what you get more of. So when you're focused on the news, which is obviously harboring a lot of fear, that's only going to bring more fear. But if you focus on all the people helping, all the blessings come from things, whatever you focus on, you will get more of. The other thing is just, I mean, one of the main, I'll say, pinnacle points of law of attraction is you manifest what you are. In other words, I tell people, think about the version of yourself that has what you want. Whether you want to be someone who's one of the top people in business, or even just someone who's making a half-decent salary. The relationship of your dreams. Who are you in that scenario? And you have to be honest with yourself. Where are you now? And then you work on filling that gap. You never beat yourself up. You never say, oh, I'm over here and I want to be over there. You say, okay, I am where I am. And you make your peace with that. And it might feel daunting, but eventually it's not going to feel daunting to get to where you want to be. But as you do that, you'll feel better and better. As you get closer and closer, you'll say, you know what? I've really become the version of myself that I want to be. This is what happened to me. Like, I thought my life was turning upside down, and I realized, nope, God was actually leading me exactly to what I desire. Because the version of myself that wanted what I want, that prayed with such fervor, it would have been so detrimental for me to have what I wanted while I was in that state. And that's why I make the case that law of attraction is really a tool for our own healing if we allow it to be that. In other words, we're not trying to use it to manipulate and get what we want, because we can never really hold on to something unless we truly make that inner shift. But in other words, it's designed to have us become our best selves, because God wants to give us blessings. But the biggest blessing at the wrong time is therefore not a blessing. There are people who want to get married, and they keep thinking, oh, I'm so ready to get married. I'm like, if you were really ready to get married, you would not be yearning to get married. You would feel calm. If you wanted to feel wealthy or be wealthy, you would not be feeling insecure about your money. You would not be saying, oh my God, you would be someone who is more at peace. So you have to be honest with yourself always about where you want to be in life. Like who you're going to be when you're where you want to be in life. So why is it any different with regard to Moshiach, the Messiah? Who are we going to be when the Messiah shows up? Because when we can identify who we would be, we can start working on that. And then we don't have that problem anymore. Because if we become the version of ourselves that has it, guess what has to happen? Like attracts like. A lot of people have the mentality, whether it's the Messiah, the government, your parents, whatever, your spouse, we think someone else is going to come fix us. Think about it, right? So you have someone, like I'm saying this kind of like a theatrical, okay, Messiah comes in a flaming chariot, and then you have like billions of people line up and they're like, hey, can you come fix my problems? Can you imagine how overwhelming that would be for the Messiah? Okay, fine. Maybe it's the Messiah. Okay, fine. You can do anything. You have that idea, right? Or you think, okay, he's going to get all these teachings that are going to make it easier. Do we have to be there 100%? No. But we have to be generally at least in the right direction. You know what I'm saying? We don't have to be perfectly healed for the Messiah to come, I don't think. Because I've learned even with my own manifestations, I didn't have to be 100% of the way there. But I had to be in the right ballpark, the right vicinity. And I'm learning that now, and I'm appreciating that now. I'm actually so grateful I did not have the things that I wanted at the wrong time. Too much light will actually break the vessel. Very big Jewish concept. Okay? So it's about how do we become the vessel? So when we each do our own healing, so what does that mean? Right? So we each do our own healing, which I'll get to in a second what that is. It allows us to become the vessel. Healing for me, that's this, idea of the self-love journey. It's looking, first of all, at our good points instead of our negative points. It's facing our traumas. It's being honest with ourselves and others. It's being honest about our needs. It's getting out of a place of shame or feeling uncomfortable. It's learning to be vulnerable, because vulnerability is the pathway to love with yourself, and with others, and most certainly with God. One of the practices that's really changed my life is talking to God every morning, and there are days that I struggle with it, right? But the days that I'm vulnerable and I allow myself to push past that, the reward is so great. So when we're vulnerable with ourselves and we say, you know what, instead of pointing at fingers and we're saying this is this person's fault and this person's whatever, if we just focus on our own inner work, we face ourselves, we say, you know what, as much as I say I'm a positive person, deep down regarding the subject, I really feel despair. I really feel worried. And I feel worried about this because, and you may have to journal out and write all the things that happened in your childhood or whatever, I mean, different processes. You know, I think a lot of people need a therapist, a lot of people need a journal, a lot of people need a lot of things. And every person, what they need may be different. Some people may need to just scream in a pillow, which I highly recommend. I can't tell you how many times I've screamed in a pillow. Sometimes you have to let the emotion out, okay? Even all these illnesses, you know, that we've all experienced over however long humanity's been alive. What I'm realizing more and more is that illness, and this God willing is going in my next book, is that illness really is just trapped emotions. And so we need an outlet. An outlet does not involve screaming at our family and friends and the people we care about, or even someone we meet on the street that we have a negative interaction with, or cursing someone out if you know someone cuts you off when you're driving, okay? It's really about being honest with ourselves and talking through these issues with God, journaling it out so we have that self-discovery, talking with a therapist if we're utilizing a therapist. And not being afraid to do it, because a lot of times we just say, okay, you know, God will fix our problems. God is giving you tools so you can fix your own problems. That is like one of the biggest things that I've gotten out of this entire experience about learning what law of attraction is that God gave us this beautiful sense of responsibility, and he expects us to use it. So what I'm saying is, stop looking outward, look inward, because when you fix what's inward, you're going to see it outward. I hope this has been helpful, and let me know what you think. Take care.